This week on FUT Weekly.
A lose-lose situation. Are EA losing the battle against the no-loss glitch?
Why Sal Pricey, the FUT economist, gives his thoughts on mad man-of-the-match prices.
Ben's been making a rookie defensive error all year.
We both give our thoughts on the best goalkeeper in the game.
As always, we talk through the team of the week, player of the week, and informed impressions.
Hello and welcome to week 19 of FUT Weekly. I'm here with Horace, as always.
Hello.
And I'm Ben. And we're going to start off by get straight into it. What's the big issue this week?
Well, we've got Title Update 5.
So it's exactly the same podcast as last week.
Yeah, got a title update addressing issues in the game.
Yeah. So yeah, that sounded very similar to the start of the last week. But you are in week 19, and we are talking about EA's title update. What does the title update bring to us this time?
So it has general stability improvements for Ultimate Team, alongside the significant note. It was only 2 patch notes. The other is addressed an instance where a substitution would result in a disconnect. So this is clearly a reference to the disconnect glitch that people were talking about. But which one? Because there seem to be so many. And so they may have fixed something, but I've seen quite a few people on Twitter, kind of big figures like Bateson and the Panthers, saying there are definitely still other glitches that work. I've seen a few clips that alleged to have been recorded post this patch of the thing where an opponent pauses and then you get kicked out of the game happening.
But not necessarily with substitutes, is that?
Not necessarily with
Okay.
substitutions. So they fixed the weird one with substitution, but there are other things that people have still worked out to do that we think might still be resulting in disconnects.
And does that leave us in a situation where, once again, the weekend league could be cancelled?
Yeah, it's unclear right now. It's currently about just gone 3 p.m. UK time. We found out about 6 p.m. UK time last week on the Thursday that weekend league had been cancelled. So we may find out in a few hours that it's not on, which would be sad, a bit frustrating for those of us who didn't play that much in the first couple of weeks, because we might miss out on gold monthly
Yeah, that's
rewards.
specifically annoying for you, isn't it, I think?
Yeah, I only played a handful of games the second week this month, and would easily qualify for gold normally. But if I don't get to play any more in January, then I'll probably be just getting some random silver.
How far off do you know how many wins?
Yedlin, please. But I don't know how. I think, looking at it, if there is only one more, I need about 20 wins this weekend, maybe 21.
Okay.
So
obviously,
very,
play
very
every game,
if I play all my games.
And yeah, I think for me it was quite frustrating because last week obviously didn't get into the details because it just came out just before we went live with this podcast. But
Yeah.
Or just finished editing it. Basically, I needed, from my final 2 weekends, I needed 25 wins and 26 wins to get elite monthly, which is kind of achievable. It's quite high, but for me, it would have been possible.
It's at the upper end of what both of us would normally get. But
exactly.
Not out of reach.
And I got 24 in the first week and 22 in the second. But that was because I tried to use Benteke, as I explained last week. But over the final 2 weekends, I was quite looking forward to trying to push for that. But obviously, because that was cancelled, they then they scaled it down as a result of the sort of, obviously everyone was playing less games, so they made the requirements a bit lower for getting elite. But it actually meant that on the final weekend, I would have needed 31 wins. Which is just crazy.
A lot harder.
I've never got anywhere near that. So if it is cancelled this weekend, I would have thought they'll scale it down and I'll still be able to get gold. Only having played 2 weekends, which actually doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah.
But it's quite frustrating if you're on the borderline for gold.
Yeah, no, definitely some potential frustration. In terms of the glitch, have you experienced them? Have you been kicked out of any games?
I think I may have, but not knowing it. So before it kicks off on Twitter, people exposing it on the forums, I think I had had it happen because I remember some suspicious disconnects, never disconnecting me, but disconnecting my opponent, disconnecting in a weird circumstance, because it's quite distinctive, because obviously someone pauses, then just afterwards it disconnects, which I think did happen to me once or twice, but I've never had it happen since it was sort of became known, which does somewhat surprise me. But that being said, we haven't had a weekend league.
Whether it would be more prevalent in the weekend league, and you also don't tend to play the daily knockouts.
No,
which
I
is
don't
where
play
maybe
daily knockouts,
it might occur more. I've had one instance where 100% I'm certain it was the glitch, and that was mucking around in the daily knockouts earlier this week, and I'd kind of walked my way through to the final and was winning fairly heavily in the final. And in the 60th minute, the guy paused, and after a few seconds, I got kicked out of the game.
Oh, so it actually counted as a loss for you?
And it counted as a loss for me. So I'm certain that was that, because I've barely had any kind of normal disconnects this year.
Yeah.
And never in a pause menu, I think. But then it did get me thinking back to a couple of games in the weekend league over the past few months where I've had disconnects at weird or very, very inopportune times, and it could just be bad luck. But I was trying to think of times when I've been kicked off the EA servers, had disconnects in game, and probably all but one or two I was winning at the time. And I mean, that could just be bad luck, but you never know. Maybe there was a much smaller community of people that knew about these glitches for much longer.
Yeah, because I would say that I've been disconnected so rarely before. I mean, I think actually, in hindsight, the weekend before, I've been disconnected myself very rarely, but I know people have disconnected out of the game in quite a few matches that weekend before it was patched, if that makes sense. So that would have been a weekend where people were using it, so I reckon it was used against me. But it's one of those things that's really frustrating when it kicks you out, but I suppose you're less concerned if someone essentially just disconnects, because you're still getting the win, and if anything, it's saving you a bit of time. But
yeah, sort of the difference between the no loss glitch, which was fairly widely known for a little while, I think, kind of that lasted a bit of time, but because it was no loss and people were still getting their wins, EA didn't feel necessarily that they had to fix it immediately.
They were probably just banning the cheaters who'd been
you hope. Whereas the forced disconnect glitch is something that completely invalidates a weekend league, because people just can't. It's kind of whoever does the glitch first will avoid a defeat, and the other person will get handed a defeat. It just that if that glitch or variations of it stay in the game and are remotely widely used, then it makes it unplayable. But that being said, I did play probably kind of 10, 12 games in the daily knockout over the course of this week, and as I said, only got disconnected in one of them.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem to be hugely common.
Yeah. Sorry if you can hear a chopper just whirring in the background.
Yeah, London police.
Yeah, trying to catch those no loss disconnect cheaters, clearly.
Yeah, exactly.
High on the priority list.
But yeah, it's a weird one. I hope the weekend league does go ahead and they can fix this, but if there are still crippling glitches in the game, then I guess they can't.
Yeah, and also, I mean, there's also the point that you wouldn't really want to be playing in conditions where any moment you could just get a loss.
Yeah, I mean, it'll just raise the stress levels, but
exactly.
Not pleasant. Another reason that you at least would be maybe happy if the weekend league got cancelled is because they've just announced, I think potentially with the title update yesterday or kind of overnight, the schedule for the week after this one, weekend league, and the requirement for the weekend league was going to be 16 Premier League players in starting lineup and subs, which allows for 2 players in a playing squad, not in the Premier League, and everything else Premier League. Which you might say, what's the difference to a no requirement one in terms of what you're likely to come up against? But it would just forcing everyone to play Premier League of all leagues.
This is
seems a bit weird.
One of the things this year that's like the requirement situation has just really got on my nerves. Like, if you're going to do requirements, at least make them so that people have to work to achieve them.
Yeah, or think, or be a bit original.
Yeah, and these requirements don't really offer anything apart from allowing all the people who just smash away at weekend week, and with the same team every week, and pace abuse with Martial and Mane and all this the
Musa.
Same. Yeah, Musa. The same.
I have used that front three for a couple of games.
Just
once.
leave now. It's just so frustrating. Like I think it doesn't encourage any originality in team squad building. It doesn't help all the players who actually look to kind of build interesting teams, or at least use players from outside the main leagues. Yeah, fine, I'll be able to use 2 legends, which is great, and that's fortunate I can, and it's going to be awkward for people trying to fit in those 2 players, I suppose. Yeah. And what you'll just see is probably like a Kazawa at left back or something like that, because you can get that in quite easily, or maybe a different. I don't know. There'll be some interesting things that people can do, but ultimately
Ronaldo's.
Yeah. But I'll be so surprised if you don't see just a full Premier League team next weekend. But this is obviously a great investing opportunity. We'll be talking to FUT economist later, but we spoke before this came out, so he won't have pointed this out. But it's quite clear that players popular weekend league players, that Premier League players are obviously gonna, we would have thought, increase in price. I think there is a thing about Lunar New Year possible pack offers and things. Again, we'll talk about that with economists, but that could drop prices this weekend. So I think there's not been too much movement on prices for now, but that could be an influencing factor.
Yeah, but I mean, the big point with this requirement for the week after this coming weekend is if this weekend gets cancelled, then you assume EA would follow the precedent of the previous maximum 5 players from one league requirement that was going to be there, and they would wipe that. And so you might see a bit of an uptick in Premier League player prices, or might have seen that over the last 24 hours. But if they cancel the weekend league, then they might actually then take a bit of a dip.
Yeah, that's very true.
So something to bear in mind.
And also next weekend, possibly after, well, during this weekend league, is it possibly a good time to buy elite players in from other leagues. Yeah. And also is possibly a good weekend to, well, afterwards, pick up some Premier League players because people may be selling them on to build other teams. Yeah,
the kind of Sunday, Monday weekend league sell-on might be particularly strong for Premier League players.
Yeah, but it's kind of interesting because obviously none of the Team of the Year players were Premier League players.
Yeah.
And obviously that means that it's very unlikely that people will be able to use Team of the Year players on full chemistry. So kind of, puts the cat amongst the pigeons for those top kind of elite players. Who are maybe using some of those guys. And if you see any of the sort of top players, their teams, although they include players like Kante, they don't tend to include too many Premier League players. Yeah. But it's worked out quite nicely for you, hasn't it?
There's the man to Zlatan doing the work for me. I think he's currently on just over 50 matches and around about 80 goals. And that's in a mixture of Weekend League, Division 1, a couple of Division 2 games, and a bit of daily knockout. So it's not kind
mainly
of a cakewalk.
Daily knockout.
A lot of daily knockout. First padding those stats there. Just
he is pretty amazing. Like I've given him a go now, and I can confirm. If you wait, I think, can you pick him up? Maybe when you're listening to this, you won't be able to pick him up actually. But
no, he should be available till tomorrow.
Till tomorrow, yeah. So that's Friday. So if you're
looking to drop 800k on a regular Zlatan,
I just hadn't really thought about it yet. But yeah. Actually, on the stuff about requirements, like I've been saying this for a while, but I'd really like to see like a silver divisions, just a silver weekend league, just for the novelty.
Yeah, I think it would be really cool if EA did do just more imaginative requirements.
Yeah, it's like if you're going to do them, you might as well make them imaginative.
Yeah, even if it didn't specify a silver team, at least maybe something like a 4-star team with a silver bench or something. Like they did a 3.5-star team with a silver bench for the daily knockout the other week.
Yeah, they do.
And that did force people to actually use silver cards, which the previous kind of 3.5-star team requirements hadn't. You could do a full gold team with a bronze bench. So
there was one time I said exactly silver for the whole team. I think, but that's true. But I think it'd be nice to see that a bit more, because silver cards silver teams used to be much more of a sort of thing. But it's really like I've gone on about this before, so I'll stop. But you know what I'm saying. But it does encourage a bit of sweat, to be honest. So I don't know whether it's always a good thing, because obviously pace isn't. You can have any pace no matter your rating.
Yeah, so pace doesn't affect players' overalls.
So there is this argument, actually, maybe that's not necessarily conducive to a good, enjoyable weekend league. But it'd still be interesting. And also, when you've got a pyro at the back, it doesn't really matter how quick your opposition players are. So that's pretty much title update, weekend league. All
that chat,
all in a nutshell. But I think we could. How was your weekend league? But obviously,
it was. There was none.
There wasn't.
Played a bit of.
We played a bit of pro clubs, didn't we?
Yeah, we played a bit of pro clubs. That was fun.
Very fun. We played with subscriber. Well, this one particular subscriber was ridiculously good, wasn't he? Sort of 93 rated, and
he had a really, really strong pro.
So that was
one game in particular that ended up finishing 6-all. My pro got all 6 goals, which I was quite happy with.
Yeah, well done.
It was the subscriber doing all the work, setting me up.
He played over, I think he played like 500 games or something.
Yeah, so pretty impressive.
If you're listening, thanks for playing. It was it was good fun. So if you fancy a kickabout and you're on Xbox One, then give us a shout.
Yeah, just search FUT, FUT, on the Pro Club search. Scroll down to FUT Weekly FC and request to join. It's as easy as that.
We'll see you on the pitch. Cool. So let's move on to something which I haven't. It's not really FUT Champions, but it's been quite eye-opening for me over the last couple of days. Was that I realised I was basically being a bit, I guess, what would be the word? Archaic.
Okay.
Yeah, sort of in my defending style, and I was still using the contain button. And I sort of stumbled across this video, and his videos are very good. Actually, a guy called Boris Legend.
Yeah, he's he generally finishes top 100. He's like a pro player. Basically.
I think he does. Yeah. So basically, he produces videos which are very informative. He's obviously a very good player. He's good at explaining it. So he was talking about how to defend, and I just happened to watch one of his defending tutorials because my defending has always been my weakest point, I'd say. And all he was saying was like, containers, it just doesn't work anymore. So that's holding A or holding X on PlayStation, and when you're kind of, it basically leaves a lot of space between you and your opponent. Which allows them to play passes around you. So what you're saying was instead obviously use jockey, which I do use a bit, but I was using contain I think far too much, and so I've completely cut that out of my game and trying to use jockey only. And it's really made a huge difference. The kind of crazy interceptions that you see top players making, or when you play someone good, they'll often make them. That is because they're holding a jockey.
The jockey button. Yeah, it's something I think I made the switch several FIFAs back where they kind of nerfed contain, and I just stopped using it, and then wanted to carry on using it in my game, but couldn't really make it work. And so I basically just used jockey, or the running jockey, where you hold both triggers to defend. Since then, to be honest, I think we're pretty similar standard of defending.
Yeah, which is surprising. I don't know. Maybe
you're going to shoot ahead now.
maybe. I've always thought you're a slightly better defender, but that may be just the thing that kind of slightly makes it slightly more balanced. But or maybe I just always found ways of compensating. Of course, that's the other thing. That and actually, I was at first finding it quite a struggle to.
And I guess, as we know, the AI does a hell of a lot of the work in defence for you. So maybe it's just it's those tiny marginal interceptions and tackles that were the only difference between us.
I think that's the thing, because a lot of people are like, oh well, like the defence does all the work. You don't need to do anything. So I was thinking, I'll just you just use contain, I guess, right?
Yeah,
but sure. Actually, not quite the case. So I think that's worth noting if you're someone who's still using contain, because it was a hugely advantageous thing to do.
I remember there was a year when people generally would just switch to controlling their striker and hold second man press, and that was how they defended, and it worked. Yeah, like that's how broken the defending has been in previous years. So I guess steps have been taken. It is as much as we like to, or people like to have a go at the game, they have tried to make it more competitive. Yeah,
no, it's really true. And it can only be a good thing to an extent, I think. But I do think gameplay was slightly better. At least I enjoyed it more last year. But I said that pretty much every week. So
it's matter for another week.
Yeah,
or every
other week.
Well, yeah, that kind of rounds up that. And now that we've got all of your rants about weekend league requirements, gameplay, and all that out of the way, and learn how you're going to revolutionise your defending, why don't we take a look back to your chat with Jamie, the FUT economist, yesterday?
Yeah, and then after that we'll do our usual roundup, looking at Team of the Week 19, and also we'll have a review of the best left back in the Premier League, as well as the best goalkeeper we've used this year. So I'm here with our resident expert on the market, at FUT underscore economist, aka Jamie, as we like to call him. And how are you today? Is it a big start to the term, or semester, as you call it?
I'm good. Yeah, no, yeah. I actually just submitted my application to the business school, so it has been a rather stressful couple hours, but it's a good start. Yeah.
Well, that's good that the market's been nice and gentle over the past week to
nice and calm.
stop you being too distracted. So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, obviously there was a lot of big claims, people saying the sky was going to fall on everyone's heads and market was going to, crash. But what were your thoughts on what's going on?
Yeah, so I mean, there are some predictions that the lack of the weekend league this weekend was going to cause some sort of market crash. I think most people recognize that this wasn't going to happen, because basically what it would do is it would take away demand for one weekend, but that doesn't mean that the demand for high-level weekend league players is going away totally. And people were saying that there were going to be massive amounts of people that are selling their players from Team of the Year, but no one's going to be buying them. But I think in reality, the lack of a weekend league just takes people off of the game. It decreases interest on that weekend. And overall, it just decreases the supply just as much as it decreases the demand. And when those two factors decrease the same amount, really nothing happens in terms of price. So I think, I mean, if you looked at the number of transfers, the number of active transfers on Xbox, that's the console that I play on, it was down in the high 900,000s, which is generally a lot lower than what it normally is at. So
yeah, I mean,
I think that goes to show that.
Sorry, we saw it up at sort of 1.9, I think, didn't we?
Yeah. For Xbox, it was at 1.9, and at points it even broke 2 million and got into 2.5 million range. So, yeah.
So that's yeah. So basically, what we're saying is it just scaled everything down, but it didn't change prices. So move on to something which has been quite interesting over the past week is EA bringing out various man of the match cards.
Mm-hmm.
So what were your thoughts on some quite high prices?
Yes, some ridiculous prices actually. I'll be honest. I have no idea why anyone in their right mind would pay 300 something K for international man of the match Sal. He's a great looking card, but there's two things that I think this could be down to. One, I think a lot of people have this idea that trading international man of the match or man of the match cards is a very good idea. In years past, it has been a very lucrative way of making some coins very quickly. I think what's sort of happening is with the recent sort of explosion of the size of the investing community, I think a lot of people are trying to basically do the same thing at the same time, and they're sort of buying each other's investments. And I think that's why we saw the price of Sal, they had to adjust his price range because it was just going extinct on PS4 and reaching the upper bounds of it on Xbox. But I really don't think they're going to be inherently worth that much down the line, even if they were only in packs for 24 hours. You also have to take in consideration that one thing that might sort of go to justify it was the fact that this past week really wasn't that interesting in terms of any reason to open packs at all. So, and the lack of...
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
And the lack of weekend rewards is something that would have made it so that the pack weight was lower as well.
Yeah, of course. And it's interesting. It's going to be interesting this week, isn't it? Because obviously there's not going to be any weekend league rewards. So this current team of the week could be kind of pricey, I guess.
Right, yeah. There's the fact that the majority of people have already opened up their guaranteed team of the week SBC packs. I mean, a couple are still opening them, but the majority of people opened them last week. And then, like you said, there is the lack of the weekend league rewards, which are two factors that usually push down prices of the team of the week the first day on Wednesday. So you could actually see them be sort of pretty high the first couple of days. And then what you have to remember is we're also going to have we're likely going to have the Lunar New Year promotion start on Friday, which because the Lunar New Year actually starts on Saturday, but most of the time EA likes to start the promotions on Friday. So I'm anticipating that we'll see the first couple promos or SBCs or whatever EA are planning to do on Friday. And that's definitely going to be something that is going to be pushing down the prices of those team of the weeks. And you can actually, you can sort of hint at the fact that EA are looking to do some big promos by the fact that they included some players in the team of the week that probably didn't really deserve to get in there. I mean...
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Dybala had 1 goal or something like that, which is usually not something that's worthy of a team of the week card.
Draxler apparently didn't even get a goal or an assist.
Right. So...
yeah.
Right.
And obviously he's been quite hyped because he's got a transfer.
Exactly, yeah.
So moving on to, actually staying in roughly the same area, on that Lunar New Year, are you expecting... finally some high-rated SBCs, or are we going to have to hold on to our investments even longer?
I'm really hoping we'll see some high-rated SBCs. I really am. I mean, we've already seen that FIFA Mobile has pretty much gone all out with their promotions. They've released some ridiculously high-rated cards and some very exciting promotions with some coin items going for like 600,000 coins or something like that, which is relatively not a lot in FIFA Mobile, but still something that's interesting. So hopefully they'll do something at least similar in scale relative on console version or PC or whatever you play on. But I'm not really sure. I mean, there's a few theories floating around. I believe there is a player in the Serie A, I can't remember his name at the moment, but his nickname is the Rooster. So we might see some sort of SBC for his 85 rated card, which would be kind of cool. There's also some theories that since it is the year of the rooster, whatever that is, that we might see an SBC that requires teams that have a rooster on their badge, so you can see Spurs or French teams or something like that. I mean, obviously, we're going to get the team of the Lunar New Year SBC kit. That's something that's almost definitely going to be coming. But other than that, we really don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, all interesting stuff and potential exciting for people like me who have quite a lot of Aspas and Schmeichels. But apart from that, we saw something quite interesting earlier in the week with Mustafi. His price obviously went through the roof after he scored against who did he score against? Burnley, wasn't it, on Sunday? So yeah, obviously, it's something to bear in mind. Obviously, it didn't quite work out for people who made that investment.
Yeah, so I mean, the thing about one to watch trading, if you will, I wouldn't call it investing because you're really not looking to hold them long term a lot of the time. Is if you have a one to watch item, so there's sort of two things you're going to be looking at. One, if they don't start and they are, if for some reason, a player that usually plays above them gets injured, or there is rumors or something like that they're going to get a start for that week's game, you're going to want to pick them up before really anyone else hears about that, because once they are announced on that team sheet, a lot of people go and buy them and they go up in price, and that's actually when you want to sell. One thing you sort of want to keep in mind when you're looking to trade with these one-to-watch items is that if they score, like Mustafi did in that game, you're going to want to sell him before it's actually announced that he gets a team of the week or not. The term is selling into the hype. Because you really don't... I mean, even if he had gotten a Team of the Week item, there's this chance that he would have actually gone down in price, because a lot of times what happens is people get so hyped about the actual Team of the Week item and the chance of the one-to-watch item going up in price that they overbuy. And when they overbuy, and they all try to sell at the same time, when he does get the one-to-watch or the upgrade from his inform, it actually makes the price go down lower than what it got hyped up to during the period that people were speculating on it.
Yeah, I doubt he would have been an 170k odd centre back. You know, he's good, but he's not sort of David Luiz, etc.
Right, exactly.
So that's great. We've managed to cover one to watch, covered weekend league, and I think some SBC stuff. So it naturally moves us on to the team of the week, which we've already discussed to an extent. But who are your kind of top picks this week?
Yeah, so there are a lot of them, and I guess you can break it down into two sort of budget categories. If you're a relatively low budget trader or investor, you're probably going to want to be looking to pick up Draxler, Rooney, and Coleman. They're not going to be cheap, but I think Draxler is a great look because he's a position change card. He's been hyped up because he's in League One now on PSG. And he's a German player, so that's going to provide a lot of good options for linking players and making hybrids. You also have Rooney, who is a record breaker card. It appears that he's actually not possible to pack in the Team of the Week SBC packs, which is going to make him a bit more expensive than the other Team of the Week cards. But he is, during the Lunar New Year promotions, hopefully his price will get pushed down a bit, because a lot of Manchester United fans are going to want him as sort of a memento card. And we've also seen that he is an incredible card this year. So in terms of long-term organic growth potential, he's a good one. And then Coleman just looks a fantastic right back. He's always right and left backs in BPL have always been great investments just because of their weekend league use. And then if you're in the upper tier, someone like Sergio Ramos is a good look. Dybala is a good look. And then a lot of people are saying Lewandowski. I'm not so sure about him. He's a great high-rated card, but he's also going to be expensive because he's a high-rated card. He's going to have a low pack weight. And I really just don't see him being a super competitive striker that people are going to have a long-term demand for, because he's not super quick, and he's going to be really expensive for a sort of a mediocre card. Maybe that's just my opinion, but I don't see a lot of people going around.
Yeah, I think that Lewandowski is one of those cards that there'll be certain players who just absolutely love him and know how to use him. But for your average FUT player, he's not got the pace. I mean, he's got a bit of strength, but he's not got the both in abundance, which is kind of what you'd normally want from he's not an Aubameyang.
Exactly.
So that's kind of interesting. But in terms, and also I guess as you were saying, his price is always going to remain quite high. Also quite interesting, obviously with Dybala originally being released as a left mid and then them switching him to a cam. You wonder sometimes whether these things are slightly deliberate just to create a bit of extra hype.
Yeah, I actually I have a story to tell. Kind of, when it was first released that he was a left mid card, I think a lot of people panic sold, or a lot of people did panic sell their 86 rated striker card, and I actually took that opportunity to buy a couple at 590 a piece, thinking that, I mean, his card wasn't inherently losing any value because it was a position that his left mid is a completely different value proposition, if you will. And then, all of a sudden, EA turned around and released that he's a can, and I'm like, oh well, now he's gone down to 550, so I've comfortably lost about 40k.
So yeah, no, I mean, obviously you do win some and lose some in the trading world.
Yeah, not much I could have done about that one.
But you, we talked about earlier about the crazy price for Sal, and just as a final kind of topic, I was just going to say the market overall seems to be, as you'd say, trending upwards. And do you think that this will just continue? I mean, players like Lalas, I bought him around Christmas, 240k, and he's now 340, which is a crazy rise. It's just a rise. It's not even anything's happened that would increase his price. And the same with players like Podolski and Sal going for so much more than you'd expect. Is it just more coins on the market, or is this the way it's going to go?
Yeah, so I mean that's an interesting question, and I would love to know the answer to that definitively. But I guess right now I can only guess, and my guess would be that a lot of people right now have sort of been holding off for many months, waiting to make their ideal team, and then have sort of turned around after Team of the Year prices and gone, well, it's time to make my ideal team. I'm going to buy pretty much any sort of high-rated, in-demand player has gone up in price because they are all being used in teams. I mean, if you look at some of the lower-rated guys, the high-priced, low-demand guys, they haven't really rebounded much in price. So it's definitely a sort of, I guess you could say, categorical demand. That's pushing the prices up of certain legends, certain high-rated gold players, certain informs. And I think actually what's happening right now is a lot of people are sort of overreacting to the market in general is overreacting to the prices, and they're overpaying a little bit because they have been so impatient. They've been patiently waiting, and now they're impatient to get their teams and sort of make them, and they don't really care what price they're going to pay for them. And there hasn't really been any sort of pack opening or promo packs that could counter that. And I think we are going to see, obviously a bunch of promo packs that are going to be coming up over the course of the next couple months, heading into Team of the Season, Valentine's Day, Lunar New Year. Team of the Tournament could be coming up for African Cup of Nations in the beginning of February. And stuff like that is going to push down, I think, the prices of some of these high-rated guys, because a lot of people already have sort of their end game teams made. And so they're not going to have as much demand for the cards, because they already have them on their team, really. They already have their teams that they're going to be set and using for the rest of the year on Weekend League. So over time, I see those higher rated guys sort of trending downward from this. I guess I keep calling it an overreaction after Team of the Year.
Yeah, cool. That's really interesting. So you definitely don't think it's just because there's so many more coins and therefore prices are higher. You think that there has been a bit of both, maybe.
Yeah, it's a combination of both. I mean, the fact that they've rebounded so heavily is a testament to the fact that people have been saving up all of their coins, waiting for the right time to buy, and then they've rebounded so steeply, steeper than they have in years past, because there is more coins on the market this year.
Great, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So unfortunately, I think we're going to have to leave it there for this week. It was great talking to you, as always.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
And we look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
Yeah, see you next week.
Well, 2 breaks. What a luxury. I hope you enjoyed that. We did. Before we get started on the final part of the pod, quick reminder that you can subscribe to FUT Weekly podcasts via various podcasting platforms, iTunes, Android app. You just search FUT Weekly. You can also follow the links on our blog or on our Twitter, which is @FUTWeeklyPod. And do get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. And let's move on to Team of the Week. Do you want to start off with your usual roundup?
Do a quick roundup. Yeah, it's a bumper week. It's huge, to be honest. I think prices have dropped a little bit since last night, but I was looking at the costs on Footbin last night, and there were 4 players selling above $1 million or something. So in terms of average value of the team, it's the highest I think we've ever seen. So well done to anyone who held on to Team of the Week packs. I had one, and I got Iborra, which was an all right way to go.
He wasn't too bad.
I sold him very quickly at about 70k, thinking he would go down. He's now 107, so that shows what I know.
It has been very weird. There's been like a lot of fluctuations.
Yeah, I think people have been thrown by the lack of
weekend league rewards.
Yeah.
And I mean, huge fluctuation in the price of the one I packed as well, going from 20k to 14. That was Llorente. Great card, pick him up and hopefully that'll
Well, with the Premier League weekend league coming up,
yeah.
You never know.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. If not, obviously he's an 83 rated. I think sometimes, especially maybe with 83 rated, although there are quite a few 83 rated cards around now, you could argue that it may be worth keeping, especially if you've got loyalty on it.
Yeah, can be useful for an SBC. But back onto the review of the team, or quick roundup. You've got some very high rated players. There's Lewandowski, 93. That's his third in form, I think. Second in form, Sergio Ramos, 91. Edinson Cavani, 89. Dybala, 87. Toni Kroos, 89. Record breaker Rooney, 86. As well as Draxler, Iborra, Skirtle, Coleman, all coming in at 86. So there's some really, really high rated players.
And no 81 rated players.
And not a single 81, which I think is possibly the first time we've seen that, which is another reason this was an excellent week to open Team of the Week packs, if you had any saved up. In terms of players to give a kind of honourable mention to, before we get into looking at a couple more closely, Hakan Çalhanoğlu, always good for long shots, just a pity he's a left mid. That Wayne Rooney record breaker card, it was a pretty awesome goal, but can you imagine paying $1 million for Wayne Rooney?
Yeah,
I think that seems over the top.
It's a collector's item, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a special card. Matri, that striker, he looks pretty average. He's the lowest rated player gold player in the team. But actually, with the right chem style, he's got perfect stats as a sort of poacher.
Yeah.
So he's
shame about his sort of 2-star skill moves and 3-star
yeah,
though.
Yeah. So it's not ideal on that front. But if you're looking for a cheap-ish striker to improve like a budget Serie A team, one to bear in mind. And Iborra, who I think we pointed out when he got his first in form, he had really good finishing stats, and he's huge and he's strong. And we were kind of joking you could use him as a striker. Yeah. This card's got 88 shooting.
Including 86 finishing, I think.
I think 88, 86 finishing, 99 shot power, 98 positioning. He's got some very solid defending stats, but he's also got 94 strength, 92 ball control. Yeah, and I mean, he's just like a really, really good all-round player with basic chem stars sort of down the core of the team. He'd be an 89 rated striker, an 89 rated cam, 92 rated centre mid, or a 90 rated centre back. He's kind of got all those on the ball stats. He's just really slow and really inagile. So I probably won't use him, but he's a funny card. He's a fun card. Ben, who's your first pick to look at in a bit more detail?
Well, I think first of all, the one that stood out for me was because it's a very recent transfer, and that's Julian Draxler. The thing about Draxler is I've used him. He's good. I always felt like he just needed a little bit more of a boost to his stats to make him a top player. Disappointingly, or I don't know, it depends how you look at it, he's a left wing. Now, in League obviously he's got transfers to PSG now, there aren't actually that many good left wings. I mean, you're talking about Valbuena's in form, I think, being the next best, possibly.
Yeah. Transferred Depay
now actually does look a very good option, although he's suspect in some ways. He certainly doesn't have as good weak foot as Draxler, who has 5. And I think that's one of the key things about him. He's got 5-star weak foot, 4-star skills. He's 6'1". On the card, on the inform, he's got 73 strength. And he's also, I'm just going to talk base stats here, but he's got obviously decent pace at 79. Not the best for a winger, but if you use engine, you're going to get that up to pretty much into the 90s.
Yeah.
And then he's got all-round really solid finishing stats: 84 positioning, 80 finishing, 88 shot power, 87 long shots, 88 volleys. And he's got 66 penalties, which means his sort of shooting is slightly brought down by that. So, yeah, his shooting is actually very good. 85 agility, which is good enough, especially if you boost it through engine or something like that. 91 dribbling, 89 short passing, and 86 vision, which is obviously outstanding. What I was thinking about him is you could possibly play him. A lot of people like to switch their teams in game to the a narrow formation where you've got your cam and the 2 strikers from the 4-3-2-1. With left forward and right forward. So what you could do is put him in at left forward. You'd probably do a job there anyway, because you don't need too much pace to play in that position as long as your other players are fairly quick. But you can actually switch him into cam in game, and he'd obviously be excellent. But yeah, he looks a strong player, and I think he's certainly filling a position in a league where there haven't been too many other options.
Yeah, there's not that much competition for him.
Exactly. And the other thing we were saying is that if you've got a Draxler, a non-informed Draxler, before he's come out into the team of the week, you're going to be quids in because there's not very many of those around.
Yeah,
and he's not going to be in packs over the next week. So yeah, good work anyone who saw that coming. Although he did, as I mentioned before, get no assists or goals, and obviously Cavani got an inform. So it's a bit of a cheeky money grab, I think.
Kind of a slightly weird one. Well, speaking of, Edinson Cavani is the card that I was going to look at next. Bit unusual for us to look at one of the kind of top-rated players in a team of the week. He is currently about 550k on PlayStation, 480 odd on Xbox. So he's not cheap, but he's not kind of over a mil or something.
Well, I think the other thing about this team of the week, these team of the week players, is there could be quite a lot of promos because of New Year this weekend. So they may drop a bit more.
Yeah, and we could see some drops.
And Draxler's like 112k or something, so you could see him dropping as well, I think.
Yeah, definitely. But this Cavani card, it's his fourth special card. He's had 2 informs already and a team of the group stage card. And now his stats are getting a bit ridiculous, to be honest. I was looking at him. If you put Hunter on him, the amount of stat points you're wasting because his shooting stats are still so high is just a bit silly. So I tried putting Hawk on him. So you don't quite get the same pace boost. It takes him up to 88 acceleration and sprint speed. But then you get 99 positioning, 98 finishing, 99 shot power, 96 long shots, 99 volleys, and 95 penalties. So just like unreal shooting stats. And by default, he's got 92 agility, 94 reactions, 89 ball control, 90 dribbling, which is outstanding, 99 jumping, 99 heading accuracy, 99 stamina, and with Hawk, he gets 88 strength and 99 aggression. So he's going to feel incredibly sort of solid and combative on the ball. I think that 99 aggression will make up for the slightly lower strength. He's only got 66 balance, so maybe he could be pushed off the ball. He won't feel like sort of a Benteke or a Lukaku or Zlatan with their kind of almost maxed out strength on their inform cards. But I mean,
in terms of agility, you can only Zlatan can really rival that.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, also I haven't mentioned it, but his passing stats are really solid. He's got 93 vision, 90 short passing, terrible long passing at 60. So that's a weak point to bear in mind for him. But you don't need to be playing long passing when you're finishing everything.
And he can do a free kick, can't he, as well?
Yeah, 90 curve, 89 free kick accuracy. So I think this is a card, if he drops a bit more, could definitely be one to pick up if you've got the coins.
And if you can live with 3-star week for 3-star skills, of course, which is...
I think, Ben, we all know how you feel about those.
After last week, yeah.
Who's your next card?
So my next card's, as we all know, especially after earlier, I do like a silver card, and DeAndre Yedlin is who I'm going to talk about, because he's ridiculously expensive. Although, he's ridiculously expensive, about 160k for a silver right back. Just seems huge.
Unreal.
But he is probably the best silver right back in the game. But what's quite strange about him is he's one of the few cards in the game that really benefits from a Guardian Chem style, which is a Chem style which boosts defending and dribbling. He's obviously got very good agility anyway. Standard is 91, but the thing that's lacking is his ball control and dribbling. And Guardian gives a +5 to ball control, making it 78, which seems more usable. And then defending, it's one of the few chem styles that gives +10 interceptions, so he gets 71 interceptions, which makes him about passable. Doesn't have great interceptions as standard. And then he gets sort of 86 marking, 84 stand tackle, 84 slide tackle. So that's all very serviceable and actually very good for a silver card, and especially a right back. He's got 72 strength on the card as standard, 95 stamina, so he's going to bomb up and down if you want him to, 81 aggression, and obviously crazy pace, 94 acceleration and 94 sprint speed. And I think the biggest thing to get a boost was actually his passing, looking at it. So he got a +10 in this inform to very much 78 short passing, which kind of allows you to sort of not boost that maybe. But I think that's pretty much him. He's one of those cards that not many people will probably fork out for him just because silvers aren't hugely useful.
Yeah.
But that weak link I know with Afara and various other MLS players plus championship players, it's actually really, really crucial.
And I mean, just that 94 pace is
that's going to be enough.
It's outstanding, really.
And also ridiculous balance with Guardian as well.
Yeah. Well, from one right back who costs over 150k to another who costs over 150k, we've got the latest member of the famous Hullet gang.
I was going to say your right back might be slightly better rounded than mine.
Yeah, just a little. I'm looking at Seamus Coleman, of course, his second in form, 86 rated. And I'm going to look at him with Shadow because I think that kind of, in terms of optimising him as a right back, that is the best chem style, though you could play him anywhere on the pitch. He's kind of by default a sort of mid-80s rating everywhere on the pitch if you put basic on him, or even up to 90 in some positions. But with Shadow, he gets 98 acceleration, 93 sprint speed, 92 interceptions, 99 marking, 99 standing tackle, 99 sliding tackle. So kind of perfect fullback stats. But to go along with that, by default, he has 99 stamina, 80 strength, 86 aggression, also 79 jumping, and with the chem style, 81 heading accuracy, which makes him perfectly serviceable in the air. He's also got 88 short passing, 80 long passing, 93 crossing, so that's sorted.
Yeah.
88 shot power, 80 long shots, going forward, sorted. And on the ball, he'll feel pretty excellent for a fullback with above 80 on all the stats in dribbling, including 83 ball control, 84 dribbling itself. So
you've avoided mentioning it, but that 88 reactions as well.
Yeah, my favourite stat I chose to overlook it this time, just showing that any of us can do it. He does have 88 reactions, so he will feel very responsive.
So yeah, I think that's summed up. He's a very solid card, and also
still a bit expensive at 175k.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You know, when you've got players like Walker, who unfortunately, just the way the game works, will do the job absolutely fine.
I mean, because how often do you, regardless of how good they are, actually go on a marauding run with your fullback all the way up the pitch?
I mean, Coleman does have 3-star skills over Walker, I think, which is a slight advantage.
Yeah,
Bellerin maybe doesn't. Does also have 3-star skills, but
though Walker is taller than him, so swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a better card overall, but for the price you pay for Walker.
I mean, another thing to bear in mind with Coleman, potentially could be one of the best super subs in the game. You can have him on your bench and put him on pretty much anywhere, but in CDM he would do be Kante on steroids.
So I think that's pretty much us done for Team of the Week, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we're going to move straight on to we've got Player of the Week and we've got an informed impression. I think the Player of the Week is going to come from yourself, but I'll kick us off with the the informed impression. So this week we've got the best left back in the Premier League. It's Marcos Alonso. Marcos Alonso obviously came out last week. We talked a lot about, well, not a lot, but we talked about his stats. Then we've talked a lot about stats of Team of the Week players already, so I won't cover his stats too much. I think most of you have probably looked at them as well. He is very solid across the board. I put Shandor on him because he needs a bit of a pace boost. Unfortunately, that's the way the game is, and we needed a bit of a boost on defending. Not huge, but it helps a lot. And he's very solid across the board elsewhere, so I felt that was good enough. I have to admit, I haven't managed to use those very, very good long shots for a left back at 85 long shots and 87 shot power, but everything else I've sort of tested over the past week, and I have to have a Premier League left back in the team I'm using, and I think having used every other Premier League left back, or sort of decent Premier League left back, I can confirm he is the best. I haven't used Informed Leighton Baines or Informed Milner.
Okay.
But I'm going to assume, because of the type of player he is, he's better because he's bigger than both. He's, I think, has the pace on maybe all of them, both of them. Yeah,
I think so.
He does. Yeah. So so I think the biggest thing about him is I was kind of concerned about his agility, because he's only got 74 agility. In the left back position, you've obviously got players running at you who are very agile, but he's a real unit at 6'2". So I kind of felt like it didn't really bother me too much, because players trying to get around him would struggle to go around him because of his size rather than because he was nippy. So yeah, I was very pleased with that. He's very good at sort of going forward. His passing's good. His dribbling's solid. I think people are aware of his long shots a bit, so kind of move to close them down. He can pass, ping a pass out of the defence, long pass it quite easily. But he can also get involved with the link-up play. He's got high work rates, which is noticeable. So he's not, unlike Luke Shaw, constantly trying to get up the field. If you put stay back on him, who really will stay back, you can probably get away with not doing that, because he's kind of quite dynamic, but in a sort of measured way, if you like. So I've been pretty impressed with him. He's one of those players that he's just a very, very solid choice across the board, and you can tell from his stats that's going to be the case. And I think if you're looking for a Premier League left back, you're wanting a kind of the best Premier League left back, then he's the guy that you're going to want to go for. He's got it all: 3-star skills, 3-star weak foot as well. And I think no matter what kind of role you're wanting your left back to fulfill, he's probably going to be able to do the business.
Yeah, I mean, there's that kind of cliche about one of the best compliments you can say about a defender is you didn't notice them in the game.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
They don't make any mistakes. They just do everything you expect of them, and I think that's very much what he does. Kind of, he does have the potential for some kind of outstanding long shot or something as well, so that's an added bonus. But he is also just incredibly solid as a card.
Yep. So yeah, I think go out and get him, especially as obviously next weekend we've got potential to have that weekend league, which is Premier League only, and he'll obviously be very in demand, I imagine, because he is possibly the best left back in the Premier League.
A brief point on his price: it's been pretty remarkably stable this past week at about kind of 50 to 55k. That can only go up as long as weekend league is on and we don't lose this Premier League requirement. I think come next Thursday, Friday, he might shoot up a little bit, so it could be a fairly safe bet as an investment.
I think so.
Cool. Should we move on to player of the week?
Yeah. Who have you brought to the table this week?
Well, it's a goalkeeper, and it's probably the best keeper I've used this year by quite a distance. Not a huge distance, but I would safely say he's the best keeper I've used this year, and it's on your recommendation. He's French, and I think I remember using his non-inform and was really not that impressed.
Yeah, I used a non-inform and just hated it.
But this inform, it's a 1-point upgrade, but fairly significant in terms of the card stats, and it's made him brilliant. And it's Stéphane Riffier.
And almost on cue, there's a car alarm going off in the background. So if you catch that on the recording,
our apologies.
It's probably the reason for the helicopter earlier, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. But back to Riffier. The inform only has a +1 overall, but fairly significant in terms of the actual stats. He's got +4 on his diving, reflexes and handling, +2 on positioning, +3 on kicking, and +5 on his speed. So there are some hefty boosts there. And he's just been probably the most reliable keeper I've used this year. Kind of, he makes the saves you expect a keeper to make, and then also makes a lot of the really, really kind of outstanding sort of wonder saves that make you think, oh, wow, that was really, really impressive.
Like, well, I've got a really good keeper kind of moment.
Yeah, exactly. And we've both used SBC Buffon quite a lot, and I think both felt he didn't really make those wonder saves that much.
Yeah, I think because I remember you sending this clip. I just started using Riffier maybe a weekend league before, so I used him for maybe 40 games at the time, maybe probably less, and had been really impressed with him. You sent me a clip of a save Buffon had made, and I was like, but like Buffon makes those saves. Riffier makes those saves pretty much every game that I have played with him. I did sort of realise at that point, I think SBC Buffon is actually slightly, I don't know, he's not nearly as good as you'd think, and so that's quite disappointing considering his overall and everything. But Riffier on that other hand, he is a really, really top keeper. And yeah, I'm glad that I'm not the only one, if you like, and you're using him now and also finding him very good.
Yeah, no, I'm really, really impressed with him. He's currently about 50k on Xbox. He's 83 on PlayStation. It's the current lowest bin according to FUT. 50k, I would say absolutely pick him up. He's worth that. Normally a goalkeeper, you don't necessarily want to invest crazy money in them, particularly if you want to strengthen other areas of your team. But there's an argument that because you're never controlling the goalkeeper, the stats are the most important thing. Like you need to pay what you need to get a good keeper.
It should, in theory, be the most. The time when you're putting in, you're never going to be able to affect that position yourself. So to an extent, so you should get what you get out of it.
That being said, you could just use Butland or Begovic and
of course, yeah. But actually, in Ligue 1, there aren't that many good options, and he is by far the best option in that league, and that's one of the reasons I picked him up to start with. But to be honest, I think even with Inyama's inform in current team of the week, he's not going to be nearly as good. And I think, if you're looking for a Ligue 1 keeper, he's your man.
Or even a French keeper. I mean, Hugo Lloris will compete. I'd say Hugo Lloris is an excellent keeper this year,
but not as good. I think having used both.
Yeah,
I'd say Riffier is better.
I'd agree. And Mandanda probably nowhere near him.
No. So yeah, pick him up. He's 6'2". We were saying actually kind of goes against our theory that big keepers are the best this year. He's slightly smaller, but I think he's a nippier keeper, and it also works very well with the glove trait, because reflexes, which isn't boosted by the glove chemistry style, I should say, it boosts all of his other key stats. So I'd recommend that one.
Yeah, so reflexes is his highest stat, and then diving, handling, and positioning, which are all a bit lower, all get boosted by gloves. So you kind of equal everything out. Yeah.
Couldn't have put it better myself. In fact, I didn't put it better myself.
But yeah, that wraps us up on Rivier, and pretty much brings us to a close for this week.
It does. And as always, if you've got any comments, discussion topics for next week, anything you want to say, get in touch on Twitter at FUTweeklyPod, or you can email us futweekly@mail.com.
Yeah. Fingers crossed Weekend League doesn't get cancelled and we don't have to add a little PS section this week.
Again. And the car alarm's just gone off as we finished, which is fantastic. So we'll catch you all next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.